Saturday afternoon, one of my favorite things to do here in the city is head out to the park for some fresh air. And then afterwards, I either do the grocery or I drop by one of my favorite bake shops to look at what they have for the day. So I'll take you guys with me, so come along.
I've been living in Makati for well over 5 years now. I live and work here. One of the main differences that I immediately noticed during the lockdown period was that there were definitely way less cars, obviously brought to you by the decrease in the workforce. Most of the offices now work with a skeletal team. Most people work from home nowadays. A lot of people have also transitioned to a remote work job position as well, so that pretty much explains why this place is relatively empty these days, especially since this neighborhood is actually right at the heart of the central business district. We have a lot of corporate offices here, but we also have residential areas as well, which is one of the condominium units that I stay in. The pros of living here in the city during the pandemic include, the convenience of gaining access to all the essentials. The grocery is just a 10-minute walk away from my building. On the other hand, the cons of living in the city during the pandemic include, number one, mental health. I find that living in the city for well over a year during the lockdown has really took a toll on my mental health. It has become very lonely for me as well because I don't get to see my friends very often, and for a very sociable individual such as myself, I do really miss being in a physical space with people, and I don't get to do that very often nowadays, especially now during the lockdown. Number two, it's also very expensive to be living here in the city. Despite the rental rates coming down because of the pandemic, I don't think it's close to the level of living expenses I can get if I move out of the city, because rental rates alone, electricity bills, the prices of the groceries here in the city, they're all relatively expensive, and if you add it up, and it still takes a toll on all my expenses. And if I were to want to save, I think that it would make more sense for me to also look into other areas that I can live in for the same amount, and maybe for the same amount of space but for a lesser price. Then that would be a lot more economical and efficient for me. Coming right up on the left hand side here is my former office space. It's a 10-minute walk from where I stay, and so that makes it very, very convenient. But yeah, just like most people, I work from home now. Everything that I need to do for work can be done at home. But I'd like to show you what it looks like. There's a new restaurant right above it. It's called Antipode, and yeah. It's a nice place also because you get to dine al fresco when there was dine-in. And then over here, since it's a Saturday, tomorrow they're setting up for the Sunday market for tomorrow called the Legazpi Sunday Market. So they usually bring in a lot of produce from the farmers, and then you also get to see a lot of displays from entrepreneurs, small businesses, vegan ice cream, homemade casino and all that stuff, and all that. They're finds that you can find in the Filipino market that you don't usually find in the grocery stores. They're found right here. So right behind me is the grocery, which, like I said, it's just a 15-minute walk away from my place, so it's really very convenient. If I do run out of anything, I have it all right here. When I was renting in Makati, I was renting a 30 square meter studio back then for 30,000 pesos. On top of that, I was also renting a parking spot for an additional 5,000 bucks. But before I could even move into that place, I needed to make a deposit, an advance deposit of 35,000 pesos, including a security deposit of an additional 35,000 bucks, and the deposit for the first month as well. So that makes up a total of 105,000 pesos of deposit before I can even move in. On top of that would be the post-dated check for the rest of my stay there during that time. And on top of that, I also had my utility bills. That includes my internet for 2,000 bucks and my electricity for around 1,000 bucks and my water bill for about like 500 bucks as well. My living expenses, my monthly living expenses during that time comes up to about 50 to 60,000 pesos for my stay there if I live a little bit more frugally.
So the high cost of living combined with the toll that it took on my mental health really forced me to look into alternative ways to go about this. And that was when I discovered Baybayin Hub. The great thing about this is that there is no upfront cost, which means that I didn't have to put down a security deposit or an advance payment of any sort. And there is no long-term lease, which means that if I decide to stay there for 1 month and decide that I want to transfer to another resort the next month, then that's totally fine. And it also comes with unlimited access to internet. And the best part about this is by direct access to nature, which is my most favorite part, because if I do decide that I want to take a break from work, then the ocean is just within a few meters away from me. I wake up to the sound of the ocean. I go to bed with the sound of the ocean, which is a stark contrast from the kind of lifestyle that I have in the city where I wake up to a concrete jungle. And so I'm very happy with the experience that I've had with Baybayin Hub so far, and I hope this gives you guys an insight into co-living outside of the city with Baybayin Hub. And if you think that this makes sense for you guys to look into, then I highly recommend that you guys give this a try, be it a month or two, to see what works for you.